When I talk about how we're going to pay for education, how we're going to invest in infrastructure, how we're going to get the cost of prescription drugs down, and a lot of the other issues that people talk to me about all the time, I've made it very clear we are going where the money is. We are going to ask the wealthy and corporations to pay their fair share.
Hillary Clinton making her case for tax hikes on the rich in the final presidential debate Wednesday night.
But how much exactly would the wealthy's fair share be under a Hillary Clinton administration? The politicians use that term, but they never seem to put a number on it.
Joining us now, Bain Capital founding partner and author of The Upside of Inequality, Ed Conard. Ed, good to see you. Let's tackle the term fair share. What do you perceive is fair share from how she sees it and then how you see it?
Well, I don't think there's a definition for it. I think the Democratic strategy is more and more and more spending. So state, federal, and local spending is at 36% of GDP. That's an all-time high for where we are in the economic cycle 8 years after the recession. And they want to add another $165 billion of spending. On top of that, if you project forward into the future, the Congressional Budget Office expects spending to rise 9 points over the next 30 years as baby boomers retire. Debt rises from 75% of GDP to 140, and that's if we cut discretionary spending to the bone, which we're not going to do. So it's going to be even worse than that. I think the strategy is just more, no matter what level of spending we get to.
Listen, you make a very compelling case in the book about the differences in the upside of inequality. So tell our viewers what you mean by that term.
If you look at the United States, about 25% of our workers score in the top third of academic test scores. In Germany, and about 45% are in the bottom third. In Germany, that's a third, a third, a third. In Japan, it would be almost 50% at the high end, 15% at the low end. So Germany has twice as many high-skilled workers per low-skilled worker as we have, and yet we've been able to grow our economy faster. We've been able to drive our employment 2 times Germany, 2 times Germany and France since 1980, 3 times Japan at median wages, which are 15 to 30% higher. We've done that through entrepreneurial risk-taking, working harder, better on-the-job training, and a more motivated pool of our most talented workers.
So my question, Liz, and if you can answer this question, you'll save me shrinkage on the psychiatrist's couch. My question is, these ideas are very good, and they're very, very sound, but there's no communication of these ideas from the Republican Party. And so why do you think that that message does not resonate into the marketplace?
Well, I think we have to constantly do I mean, I'm trying to do it with the book, which is trying to explain to people who will listen what the facts are, how they look, how we compare to Europe and Japan. I think what people don't appreciate, what the Democrats take advantage of, is if we raise taxes, how much will it slow growth next year? In the same way, if Europe cut its taxes, how much faster would it grow next year? It doesn't have the institutional capabilities to grow. What I try to show you in the book is slowly over time, the U.S. institutional capabilities, getting on the job training at companies like Google and Facebook, working in Silicon Valley is the most obvious example, makes our most productive workers way more productive than Europe and Japan.
That is based upon the private sector providing that job training, which is really the smart way to do it, instead of having government job training programs, of which there are dozens, and clearly it's not working because you have the JOLTS number, the job openings number is pretty high, but there aren't the right qualified workers to fill those jobs. So there is a disconnect there. What is the answer then? Because if you talk to even conservative think tanks, they score this as saying what will save us is certain tax hikes and spending cuts, but neither Donald Trump nor Hillary Clinton is really talking about spending cuts.
Well, I certainly agree with you that on the job, I mean, job training, not on the job, job training independent of the job. The research says it doesn't really work at all. So I agree with that 100%. I do think Donald Trump is talking more about tax cost cuts than Hillary Clinton, who's talking about $165 billion a year of increase.
He's not talking about cutting Social Security or Medicare.
Yes, it's true, but he talks about cutting Obamacare and things like that. So there is some cost reduction there.
What happens to the Republican Party into 2020 and beyond?
Yeah, I think you have to find common ground between the Reagan Democrat, now we'll call it the Trump Democrat, who is quite frustrated about trade and immigration, putting downward pressure on their jobs, is very worried about that, and the free market economists who believe that we have to have free trade and largely open immigration borders in order to grow the economy as fast as we can. What I've argued to both groups is that it's not trade. We can't buy for $20 what you can buy for $2. But trade deficits are a big problem because they bring savings into the country that we have no use for at zero interest rate. And unless we borrow that money and spend it, we don't get back to full employment. We put downward pressure. So trade deficits, not trade. And in the case of immigration, we can't forego immigration because when you look out into the future, you see baby boomers retire, they eat us alive, and then China eats us alive after that. We can't get there with organic growth, but you need high-skilled immigration in order to grow the economy, not low-skilled immigration.
Terrific insight.
Thank you.